Greetings. This is the Unseen Podcast, episode 48. This is James Garrison. Big Papa Paul has taken the week off, so I get to be in charge for a little bit. This is the unscripted, unedited, Creative Commons open participation spin-off of the WoW Signal, so please visit the WoWSignalPodcast.com. If you want to be in the panel pool along with these fine folks that you see in front of you, you can email at unseenpodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to theunseenpodcast.com for more information. We don't have any special guests tonight, but I do tend to like themes. So tonight we are going to be talking primarily about hoaxes. So I will introduce the panel and let everybody say a word or two for themselves, and we will take the show from there. And anyone who has been waiting for us to start, I am sorry, I was having personal technical difficulties. So, to start off with, we have Mike Mongo.
Ladies and gentlemen. So, some of the people may not be, if they're podcast viewers, and are they going to be listening or are they going to be watching? That was a person. I've been chomping at the bit.
Depends on how good their imagination is.
And personal technical problems. Is that intestinal? Is that thyroidal? Personal technical problems. All right. Next.
All right. Next we have Mike Bowler.
Hello, everyone. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to follow Mike Mongo, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. Marcia Barnhart.
Greetings from beautiful downtown Cadillac, Michigan.
Yeah. And calling from the land of tomorrow, we have David Grigg.
Hi, I'm calling from Melbourne, Australia, which means my feet are pointing towards you at the moment. That's got to be something to do with humour and hoaxes on a day like today.
I had never thought of it in that way before. So, okay. And like I said, because we are recording on April 1st, which is one of my personal favorite holidays, and the whole panel has already gotten me at least twice, so while we were off air. So tonight's topic is going to be pretty much we're just going to talk about some of our favorite hoaxes and let the conversation kind of flow from there. So who would like to start?
Me.
I heard a me right off the bat.
I'm dying to talk about this.
Okay, so go ahead, Mike Mongo.
Are you ready? All right. I apologize for leaping to the front. I definitely do. But the Patterson Bigfoot footage. What? You guys know the footage I'm talking about, the Patterson Bigfoot footage?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, did people believe that?
They still do.
I mean, people look. You look at that, like that is the worst. Like that is one of the, stupidest pranks ever done.
Oh, that is not the worst Bigfoot hoax stuff. They just recently had Bigfoot hoax thing and carried it on for a good long while, saying they had an actual Bigfoot and they'd put him in a freezer locker, and everybody was supposed to. What was that?
But okay, so that's relatively new, that one, and I remember that one, and people believing it, waiting for that, like the big reveal. But like it is here. Wasn't that in the, when was the Patterson Bigfoot footage? Was it in the 70s?
68.
Yeah.
Oh my Google.
63 or 68.
Come on, 68. Okay, it looks like really bad Disney wildlife footage.
I thought it was very well done, Mike Mongo. It was very well done.
Okay, for the time. Okay.
Yeah.
If you wanted to fool everybody at the time.
I mean, it was 16 millimeter footage.
8 millimeter.
8 millimeter. Yeah, even better.
On the back of a horse, taken while on the back of a horse. Remember, and the horse was bucking or rearing. Mm-hmm. And then all the so-called scientists who have studied the film and given all the reasons why it's a genuine Bigfoot Oh my goodness gracious. That is, I mean, I get it. In 1968, that was when we were still making comedies about Nazis, right? The Hogan's Heroes, like that. Even we were tolerant of a lot. But it is 2016. Can we get that behind us?
Apparently not. No.
Apparently not. All right. So there's mine. Thank you. I've been waiting for decades to get that off my chest.
Well, come to Oklahoma. I will introduce you to a group of people who believe it is the gospel truth.
The that footage?
Yes, they think the Patterson-Gimlin film is documented evidence.
Yeah, around where I live, which I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, as a matter of fact, and I lived in the area there at the time that came out. And I know to this day there are an awful lot of people who believe that is genuine footage. But I mean, I thought it was if it was a hoax, let's say it was a hoax, it was relatively well done. I've seen a lot of really badly hoaxed stuff. That wasn't, in my opinion, badly hoaxed, but it wasn't yours, and that's cool. It was yours.
Wait, that was the most passive-aggressive thing. I mean, you are.
Well, I mean, if you think it was really bad, then I understand. That's fine.
I mean, some of the interesting things behind that film is that you think of everybody else who goes out looking for Bigfoot.
Okay.
Patterson and Gimlin purposely went out to look for Bigfoot because they were wanting to film a documentary about Bigfoot, but they wanted to have footage of the creature. Which one was it? Patterson, that was basically had a habit of running a bunch of short cons for money.
Oh.
One of the two of them had a habit of running short cons just to stay ahead of bill collectors.
Wow.
And then, so they go out looking for Bigfoot, and they just happen to find it, and they're able to get relatively clear footage of it.
Okay.
But the fact that there are supposed, I've never seen them, but there are reports that there are receipts from a costume shop. The people who make costumes go, yeah, that's one of ours. It's been modified, but we recognize it. Yeah, but I mean, at the time, I remember growing up seeing that thing in late 70s, early 80s, and people still touting it as evidence.
I mean, I remember watching it as a kid, and I was thinking, this is the most awesome thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also really sprung by $6 Million Man versus Bigfoot.
Oh, best episode ever.
I mean, like, that was a religious experience for me. So I was into the Bigfoot thing.
Well, now next you're gonna tell me that Godzilla isn't real. Now don't be telling me that. I saw it on film.
I mean, I pursued. I was really into cryptozoology as a kid. It really caught my interest, and so I looked into it as a adult, a grown up. I followed all kinds of crazy stuff from lake monsters to Sasquatch. I went and did the thing. And what I learned was that if you look for demons, you'll find them. And if you look for angels, you'll find them. Whatever you look for, you're going to find. That's really not the way to pursue science. You don't look for your results. You have results, and then you read them and interpret them.
Sure.
And cryptozoology helped me understand that. But I've had some crazy experiences that I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Go ahead. Sorry.
It does sort of raise the issue of why people.
There you go, Marcia.
We're seeing a model Godzilla on screen. It does sort of raise the issue of why people want to believe in various hoaxes, and what is it that's convincing about them, and what is it that doesn't convince people about them. I mean, this kind of also the anti-hoax. If people who think that the moon landing was a hoax, well, that's kind of falls into the category of anti-hoax in a way, isn't it? They think they've been fooled when they haven't. Any other examples of something like that?
Well, I would say that the Piltdown one I like,
Hmm.
the Piltdown Man hoax. There was there was an underpinning in that during that time to uh, uh, what is kind of Anglo superiority. So finding a missing link in England, uh, and it being the missing link in modern human, kind of played to the nationalist kind of that the white races were. I mean, it ended up being like that the white races were superior to the African. They used that as at the time that was one of the kind of like a drive. What kept Piltdown viable until we could start. When in the 50s when they finally did the radiocarbon dating and fluorine dating and so on, and realizing this was totally a hoax. It played into national and racist sentiments.
Wow.
It lasted a long time, didn't it? It was decades before they before it was overturned. It went into all the textbooks.
Yeah, 40 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super sketchy.
Yeah. Wasn't it like an orangutan skull and a few other parts
Uh,
from different animals put together?
It was a medieval human skull, orangutan jaw, and chimpanzee molars that were ground down to look human.
Somebody put a lot of time into that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's those things like that. Now, to me, that is a sociopath. Somebody who
What was the other
took
one?
so much effort,
Yeah.
to perpetrate a hoax. They just aren't right in the head doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, see, Piltdown Man makes me think of the Cardiff Giant.
Yes.
Hmm.
And it was kind of a similar thing, and then you have P.T. Barnum who wanted to display it, but he couldn't. The guy wouldn't sell it to Barnum, so Barnum had another replica of it made and was posing it as the real one. You gotta love Barnum.
Yeah, but see, like what Martha's saying, it's like P.T. Barnum is like once you told me about the Patterson, they had a history of running cons, and this is, at least one of them, and this was just par for the course for them. I didn't know that. That actually alleviated all the grief that has caused me over the years. The sort of pressure, like, come on, people, get with the program. But if it's a con, then it's kind of fun in a way.
Well, here's the problem, though, that there's universities that have done tests on that Patterson-Gimlin film, and there's plenty of cases where scholarly studies lead them to where they cannot say it's a hoax. In fact, some of these scholarly studies say it appears to be a genuine anthropomorphic type of being, an actual animal, not a human in a suit. There's plenty of other studies that say no, it's a hoax, but this was so well done that you have an awful lot of scholarly folks landing on either side of that question.
Which doesn't say a lot for scholars, really, does it?
Right.
No, but that's, somebody was going to talk about the so-called hoax, right? I know that had been.
I think that one was just getting thrown around as a favorite between Nick and Paul.
Now, the neat thing about that, though, in this case, I don't think the guy who perpetrated that, which was Sokol, I don't think he was a sociopath, because he had, and he stated from the onset, he had a specific purpose for this fraud, and that was to point up that academia, it wants to be hoaxed, because if you play into their view of the world, they are not going to be diligent in checking facts. In fact, part of the problem was they didn't check facts at all, and that was kind of what Sokol wanted to bring to the fore. If you present information that somebody wants to hear and aligns with their existing beliefs, then they're going to go for it and not even work at trying to verify information. So in that case, I think in science, it was a good step forward.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a huge tendency for people to want to believe something that fits in with their existing beliefs and to disregard something which doesn't fit into their
Right.
existing beliefs.
Right. That's it right there.
And that's just human nature, but when you're a scientist and you need rigorous science-based identification and research, you cannot do that because now you're not a scientist anymore, and you cause a lot of problems if you do not rigorously check.
A lot of people don't necessarily do it intentionally, but like think about the climate change.
Yeah.
And then you have people that, I mean, I have friends who are really acclaimed scientists who are adamant that the climate data is bad, or that it's inadequate to make the assertion that we are the causation, and also that it's in this really bad state of affairs for everyone. And yet I know who knows how many people on the other side of things who are equally committed to the strength of that data, and that it does make this. But you can draw the conclusion from this data that climate change is happening, and we are what's behind it.
Yeah, but I think in that there were a lot of studies by climatologists that were cherry-picking information, and they lost credibility when somebody did due diligence and took a look at what they had used to predicate their opinions on, and that turned out to be a problem. That was a whole big blow-up, as I recall, on that, and they copped to the fact that, yeah, they had cherry-picked information because, you know what? They believed it to be the truth. So typical humans are going to gather the information that buttresses their belief. Science is not immune to it.
That situation is a little different than the other ones, because in addition to the cherry-picking, and in addition to the ones that are not cherry-picking but drawing opposite conclusions, there are the people that are intentionally working to mislead on both sides. The ones that are the sky is falling crowd, and the ones that the sky and the other side, the sky is absolutely not falling crowd.
Yeah. This falls into what I was calling an anti-hoax. Yes. To me. I mean, the balance of evidence and the balance of opinion is way over to the side of climate change happening and being caused by human activity. There's just no comparison. You can't put a few coins on one side of the scale and a few bricks on the other and say they're equal. They're not.
Well, I think that what's happening here is that the human today is causing an acceleration. What the record tells us has been going on since time immemorial.
Well, let's not turn this into a climate change, anti-climate change debate.
God, let's
we
not.
talk about hoaxes.
Yeah, so those people that, I mean, with regards to the climate change, that particular idea, that anti-hoax situation, I was specifically I meant to bring up the people that are using it to further agendas. And that is very similar to running a con.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
I agree with that.
The guys who are like, I actually am not mad at the people that run. Like, if the Patterson guys are running a con, then I think it's almost like a good joke. And that's how. And also P.D. Barnum. You know, how can you not like a good show? And it goes back to saying we do want to believe. We do speaking of believing and speaking of hoaxes, this one I love. We all experience this on a day-to-day basis. Really, it's the email that says you've won or you've been chosen. I am the king of Siam, and we need somebody to receive this money, and we will share these untold millions with you if you do this thing. These emails, the most brilliant part about these emails is that there's all these, I mean, the internet is just constantly refreshed with new users. So there's all these newbies out there, and they get this email, and here's the best part, is that out there in the aloneness of their own home and their own device and their own interaction with email and technology, they get a message that says, "You're special." And they've been waiting their entire lives to hear somebody acknowledge the thing that they've known inside forever. They chose me. I am special.
I don't ever get those. All I get's the ones are for the penis pills. I mean, which could be a hoax in themselves.
It was like an overshare moment right there.
Now, Mike Mungo, when you're talking about those very well-known and very well-crafted
Nigerian prince.
Yeah. Do you think, to my mind, that is just nefariousness? I do not find it a laughable moment. I find it destructive, nefarious activity.
It's evil.
I don't know about evil, but it is destructive. They don't have the right to do that to people.
Then
there's got to be a special hell for those guys.
Oh, okay, well,
I mean that's where a hoax becomes fraud.
Okay, well, but here's the thing: is that all these people, the people who get frauded by that particular hoax, those hoaxes, the ones that they are literally emails that produce a feeling of being chosen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so then all these people have these secret little pathologies, these little private pathologies where they've been waiting to hear this special message from the universe that comes from out of nowhere. That says that you're a superhero. It's been true all along. Or you're a prince that was stolen at birth, and
Harry, you're a wizard.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the psychology. Certainly, there's a very effective psychology that is employed by those guys. Just because you're a really effective sociopath, it doesn't make it any better. They just know how to ply their trade.
I have more of a bigger adoration for the effective sociopaths as opposed to the ineffective sociopaths.
Well, you would.
The high-functioning sociopaths.
The ineffective ones never get elected to office.
Oh, no, that kind of sociopath, that's not a high-functioning sociopath.
Oh, God, do not go there.
Okay, none of them.
All right. Okay.
None of them.
Well, okay. Well, Marcia. Go ahead, David.
You talk about not going there, but I'd just like to read something from a book, if I could. It's not very long.
Sure.
It's Martin Gardner talking about pseudoscience. An even more regrettable effect produced by the publication of scientific rubbish is the confusion they sow in the minds of gullible readers about what is and what isn't scientific knowledge. And the more that the public is confused, the easier it falls prey to doctrines of pseudoscience, which may at some future date receive the backing of politically powerful groups. That's written in 1952. It just seems to be prescient to me about current times. So there you are. I just thought I'd share that with you.
There's some things about human psychology that never change.
That's true, yeah.
Okay, now on that note, I know you're heading to the direction of how the pseudoscience could be used to further a political agenda, but I want to point out this. I get to work, as you know, I get to work with students. That's my whole everything. I work with students in and outside the United States, encourage them to pursue careers in astronautics and space and science, and inevitably in the classrooms, and this happened to me so many times as a grown-up at regular space and science conferences, where you're having a perfectly intelligent conversation and somebody explains that about aliens or extraterrestrials living amongst us. You'll be having a really great conversation, terrific conversation with an apparently very intelligent person, and then suddenly the penny drops. You know they live amongst us, right? And you're like, oh my God, I got sucked in again. Okay, so
I had that when I was teaching. I actually had a girl look at me and go, well, you know that we've never been out what was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about lunar cycles. And she goes, well, you know that we've never been off the planet because there's nothing up there.
Okay, right. Okay, so we've all had that experience with grown-ups, but here's what here's why I was talking about it. What I wanted to say and introduce to you is that I got to when working with students, they're watching YouTube all the time, right? And so when you watch YouTube and you're a regular YouTube user, which is different than how any of us probably use YouTube, that YouTube has an algorithm that suggests other videos that they should watch according to their whatever they have been watching. And so if they watch, for instance, Pacific Rim, which is about giant robots and monsters, it can lead to, it can very shortly get to UFOlogy. And so these students are watching this garbage. Not high school students, mind you. I'm talking about elementary and middle school students that are suddenly exposed to this stuff unbeknownst. I mean, their parents are in the unawares that this real, like we always worry about stuff with content that is lurid or inappropriate for the age group, but pseudoscience is its own particular kind of poison. And there's so much of it on, the videos that to us are really entertaining, just ludicrous. And I had a boy in 6th grade during World Space Week at one of the schools I visited, who made a big point during class to explain that he had seen these videos and that we definitely have aliens living amongst us. And in fact, he went on to explain, really made a thing of it, he had seen a UFO just 2 weeks ago land in his backyard. Now that was that's a shuddering moment for me as an educator, because I know that youth is going through something.
Well, did you query him about that?
Oh, yeah, after class, and then I brought it to the attention of the administrators.
What do you mean you brought it to the attention of administrators? You thought this kid was just making this up? He was delusional? He needed help?
Well, yes. I didn't know about the making up part, but he delusional for sure in some way or another, and then needed help, absolutely.
And what did he say he saw that
UFO.
He made up out of whole cloth? He made this up out of whole cloth?
He absolutely saw it. He saw it.
No, he made it up out of whole cloth, or he saw it?
He saw it. And he didn't make it up out of whole cloth. He wasn't just being a fabulist. He was some sort of emotional thing had been going on in his life. He picked up on these cues from YouTube, and this is what his mind has created for him. This thing. Now, here's another for me. By the way, in that situation when I had to bring it to the attention of administrators, there's this part of me inside. I'm like, is this young person going through some amazing experience that I'm blowing for some reason, somehow or another, by bringing it to the attention of the authorities? But that's not, I don't have that luxury because it's not a grown-up that I'm interacting with. It's a 12-year-old or 11-year-old.
Well, Mike Mongo, disclaimer here, full disclaimer. I have had experiences that you don't have to believe in, but I know happened, and it informs me in my world that something is interacting with the human species. And if you think I'm crazy, that's fine, but from where I sit, it is a fact. Something, I'm not saying aliens from outer space, there is a thing that we cannot fathom, explain, or understand is interacting with the Homo sapiens that are currently here and perhaps before. So I'll let that sit there, but I don't think just because somebody says they saw some object that happened to land in their yard, they aren't necessarily a nutcase.
Right. And so I did say that there was a part of me inside that said, that was uncomfortable about turning him in for being a unique-minded person. However, because it's an 11-year-old, I couldn't take the chance of not turning him in because it can turn into some other situation. And a lot of times people create these sort of illusions because they're being abused.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
right.
There's
So,
any number of psychological things that could account for
anything,
that.
right? And
In
it could
addition
be
to the fact that he
biological,
actually
ordinary
saw something.
biological for that person. And then some of these
Yeah.
people that we would think of it, they're having some sort of like a psychological issue. It could, and even if it's biological, in other cultures and other traditions and other epochs, they would be called shamanic or the parallel, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's
so
a long history of
and
that.
here's another thing with regards to the thing that what you introduced on this topic, Martha, just a second ago. The way that you Marsha, thank you. Like anybody who has any sort of religious experience would fit into the category that you just. So I would have no challenge with the way that you just said that. I'm not saying it is this. I'm just saying that there is some sort of interaction that takes place that we're not privy to. We're not privy to fully comprehending. That's what I grokked from what you said.
Yeah.
Most of the scientists I know, one of the best top scientists I know is a major Christian.
Oh my God, no.
So, and the yes, actually, and but the point is that that's the same sort of thing, that there's this unknowable or incomprehensible force or something that interacts with us in this way that we are not able to fully, like I said, grok. So that's like we've gone off the hoax.
Okay,
path.
but Mike Mongo, here's what you really need to know. There is a giant mutated spider found in Croatia and a 6-foot Hawaiian cane spider that is harmless. And so I saw it on YouTube, and I see a picture right here in front of me, and here's this beautiful 6-foot spider, so it must be true. That was my hoax. I'm thinking, for the love of God, people.
Marcia, can you share the link in the chat so everybody can have a chance to witness this wonderfully beautiful arachnid on the side of a house?
I shall certainly try, but all you have to do is Google biggest Hawaiian cane spider attacks house. I mean, it's making off with small dogs and children. Now, this is what we were talking about, all of us were talking about, and certainly you were, David, too, that you're kind of thinking at some point in time, people ought to kind of deploy their discernment system. Because if you just flapped your BS meter a tiny bit on this video, it ought to peg. But somehow, for some reason, and Mike Mongo, you were talking about this, there's a whole group of children that have been spoon-fed stuff right into their little brains to just believe everything you see and hear. Somewhere along the line, folks, we need to reintroduce critical thinking.
Absolutely.
Well, the thing on the spiders though is that humans are inherently creeped out by spiders.
Yeah,
and
snakes
you have to admit that some spiders have some really amazing abilities. The ability to jump. There's a gliding spider. There's swimming spiders. You have a spider that their reflexes are so quick that they seem to be able to foretell, predict the future by a few milliseconds.
Yeah, they still got.
But the fact is that because humans are so skeezed out by spiders, I think, and just inherently, we don't doubt anything we're going to hear about a spider.
Well, it could be a spider. It could be mermaids. It could be, the giant mutated spider found in Croatia.
No, mermaids are just hopeful.
They're what?
Mermaids we're just hopeful for. Sailors were hopeful that they were there. Yeah, that's right. I agree with I agree with Marsha about critical thinking. I think we need to teach critical thinking and logical analysis at school much more than we do. When I was a kid, we actually used to go through newspaper advertisements and TV commercials and so on, and just pick them apart and see what the spurious methods of thinking that they were trying to get you to follow were. But I don't know that kids do that these days in school. Maybe they don't. But certainly, I mean, in the days of the internet now, we really have to assess what we consider to be evidence, because you can find so-called evidence in quotes for anything you want on the internet somewhere. Flat Earth, yep, there's a Flat Earth Society out there, and they're on the internet.
Yeah. Now, something like the flat Earth, though, to me, it seems to me, David, that ought to be instantly provable. Just whoop, you got, I mean, just from simply a high altitude weather balloon with an attached GoPro camera. That's all you need there. You just don't want to believe it.
They say that the lenses are curved.
The what? The lenses are curved.
It gives you a fisheye appearance, therefore the horizon's still flat, but due to the curvature of the lens, the horizon appears to be curved.
Oh, that's how they get around that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right. Well, what the hell do I know? It could be flat. Right, Mike Mongo?
No.
There's two groups of flat earthers, though. One of them, it's the minority of them, they truly believe that the Earth is flat. The other one just takes joy in trying to argue an impossible position. It's more of a mental exercise for them.
Oh, a contrarian?
Not necessarily contrarian, but think devil's advocate. Like the original definition of the devil's advocate in the Catholic Church. Trying to. But that's kind of what think of it as a mental exercise. Basically, they just want to flex their mental muscles and be able to show that it is possible to argue the pros for any position.
Wow.
So that's the majority of them. The fun part is trying to pick apart the people that actually believe in hollow Earth, flat Earth, or egg Earth, or any of those, versus the people that are just being hipsters about it.
Now, to play devil's advocate here, and do excuse me, but isn't one of the planets, the moons of Jupiter, if I recall, they kind of think it might be hollow? Which one is that, you guys? You know what I'm talking about, right?
They don't think it's hollow. They just think there's an ocean underneath the surface. That's all.
So they don't think it's hollow.
No, not that I've heard of.
I remember reading something that good scientific data suggests that there is large hollow cavities in the bottom or in the center of this moon. I can't think of it. If Paul were here, he would know. But
he would. That's true.
Actually.
Oh, damn, Paul! Taking a vacation. How could you?
The Martian moons have been
Phobos.
Phobos. I think there has been a hollow idea about Phobos.
Yeah, that might be the one I'm thinking. Now that was propounded by some pretty smart guys, not just a bunch of goofballs. So I don't know what to think there. I mean, my mind's pretty open on that. We don't know a whole lot, really.
But see, this is where you need to have scientific thinking. You have to look at the evidence for something like that. You have to think about how you would test something like that. You have to think about, if that were the case, how does it structurally hold together? You simply have to apply some logical analysis to this kind of thing. And maybe you can't, after doing all that, maybe you can't say, yes, it's true. But if you just simply throw out an idea, then it's just an idea. You've got to use the scientific method to analyze it and figure out, well, how would we test something like that? Well, if we went there and drilled a big hole,
with Phobos, Phobos was about data errors.
Yeah.
And then our technology got better, and then it was whoever reviewed the data said that this looks like errors. Then our information got better, and sure enough, it was, and that's why. But Phobos initially had some quality that led it to be perceived as possibly being hollow. That's what happened there.
Yeah, you're right. I just Googled that, and it said that although scientists agree the moon probably is not likely hollow, vast caverns may exist, which are causing some of the data that they got. So that's interesting.
Now, the
Yes,
thing
it
about
will be down to the density. It will be down to the density that they're measuring.
vast
Um,
caverns is another thing I sort of religiously avoid. Like, I'm not going. Like, there are in the Mars polar ice cap. I believe there are caves that are 80 meters deep that we've detected, but we haven't been able to, we don't have any idea what's inside, and it could have life. I mean, it's been hypothesized that that's where it would exist in these deep holes.
It's a
But
wampa.
there's no way I'm going in there.
Oh, come on.
No,
Where's your sense of adventure?
I left it at like there was this big tidal lake in Squamish, British Columbia, and I was swimming in it, and it's supposed to be limitlessly deep, and we swam down very deep, and it seemed like something was in the water with us, something really big moving through the water with us, and then we all came up to the top, and it was freaking everybody out. And one of the guys, we were 6 of us, and one of the guys, this kind of jockey-looking guy, as a matter of fact, said, "Hey, did anybody else feel that?" And at that moment, suddenly my whole life was some sort of monster movie cliche. And I didn't want to be in that movie, and I knew that the only thing that is good is going to come of this is if this thing eats me, they're going to name it after me. Like, that's where they discovered the Mongosaurus. It was still alive. And that's where my sense of adventure is, because I got out of that lake, and I left it there.
Well, the caverns of Mars might be one of our best choices for habitation if we could pop a little top over that and pump in some decent oxygen.
Oh my God!
And maybe,
are you listening to yourself? Do you not know what happens when you pop a cap on top of a Martian cavern and then go in there? Don't you
No.
I've
understand?
seen that movie.
I'm
Every
naive and
one
I
of
do
the
not know.
movies. What
Oh,
movie is
no.
not like that?
Oh, no. Okay, forget I said that. Never mind. Okay, who's got the next hoax?
That would be David.
Okay. Well, mine's going back. Someone took the Piltdown Man, so I'm still going back to fossils. Digging up fossils. And well, I've been reading this great book by Martin Gardner, which is my recommendation, Fads and Fallacies in the Name of Science, 1952. But anyway, he's got some good stuff about fossils. And he's talking about in the 1700s, people were finding these things underground and wondering what the heck they were, and they're trying to explain them, and were they plants and animals destroyed by Noah's flood or whatever. Anyway, the thing I wanted to point out was this great little hoax. There was this professor of the University of Würzburg, Professor Johann Beringer, and he published an expensive monograph describing some curious fossils he'd discovered, many of them bearing replicas of the sun and the moon and various Hebraic words. Actually, they'd all been carefully baked out of clay and planted in the earth by his students. But the poor professor fell completely for the hoax until one day he discovered a fossil with his own name on it. He spent the rest of his life buying up copies of his work, which of course made it much in demand as a collector's item.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
He got ruined by that.
He did.
What's
Oh,
that
that's
called? That's
awful.
called
I just remember hearing about that a couple of weeks ago.
That's nefarious now to my mind. That poor guy got ruined by that.
Well, I think that part of the reason the students did it was because he was extremely. He jumped on everything as being a new find or something, and they just wanted to demonstrate that you could put anything in front of him and he would take the bait.
So in other words,
basically, he wasn't thinking for himself.
he got punked.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
He got punked.
Pretty much.
Ouch. Well, I wonder if that modified how he approached things. See, that would if it modified how he approached his discipline, then that would be a good outcome, and there at least would be some positive spin on having been ruined in your chosen profession.
Well, you know,
Use your
he didn't
powers
have
for
to. He
good.
didn't
Well,
have to.
I
Never for
don't have a
evil.
job now, but I can think for myself.
Never for evil.
He didn't need
Oh
to be ruined. If
God.
he was a good scientist, he would have come out and said, "Look, you know, I admit that all my evidence was false, and I'll do better in future." That would be a good scientific approach. But in fact, he just
Yeah.
tried to spend the rest of his life defending his reputation.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Oh.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't back down. He didn't. Yeah, I mean, you look. I mean, most. You look at what was it when they were doing the faster than they got the readings of the faster than light neutrons. They went. We may have messed up. Can somebody else come and look at this?
Yeah.
Or when you're doing actual science, you will actually welcome people to come in and take a look at your work and make sure that everything's legitimate.
Yeah,
So,
peer review is essential. Peer review and having different people take a different go at it, then that's science done right. But if you go in with an idea of how it should be and then you keep cherry picking evidence to point it that direction, that's science done wrong. And as you gentlemen know, we've got an awful lot of science done wrong examples. A dysfunctional science community has been ruinous too.
yeah. So I mean, hoaxes can actually have a benefit. It's like when we were setting up the topics thread, and we had to point out that hoaxes can actually be pretty serious business. Talking about Bigfoot, there was a guy, I think in Texas, going Bigfoot, got hit by a car. He put, well, even look at okay, I'm just going to throw one of my ideas out right quick. But James Randi, he took a couple of people and trained them up as mentalists, and completely got one over on the scientific community because they were thinking in basically straight inside the box lines. Okay, this is possible, this is possible. What these guys are doing falls outside of our normal parameters. He basically used a couple of guys he trained as mentalists to show the scientific community that, hey, you guys need to think outside of the box to help you, keep from being taken by hoaxes and to help, look for better ideas or possible suggestions, problems. So, I mean, it was pretty cool when he did that, and he's done a lot of other stuff. And then I had a whole bunch of suggestions shot at me at one time. And I think David said something about Ern Malley.
Oh, that was a literary hoax. It's a very famous literary hoax in Australia.
Similar to the Sokol hoax.
Yes, well, yeah, but in the literary world, it was
Okay.
there was a sort of modernist poetry magazine in the 1940s, publishing a lot of poetry, and there were a couple of authors decided that this modern poetry was pretty well rubbish, and so they actually put together all this pretty rubbishy poetry that they'd sort of cobbled together from cutting out bits and pieces from various sources, and sent it off to this magazine under the name of Ern Malley. It was supposed to be sent by Ern Malley's sister, who'd found this cache of his poems after her brother had died. And so she sent them all off. This is the story. She sent them all off to the magazine. Of course, the magazine thought these new poems were terrific, and they issued a special edition of the Angry Penguins magazine that they ran, featuring the poems of Ern Malley. And of course, then when the two authors involved confessed, the proverbial excrement hit the fan. And so it's a pretty famous literary hoax in Australia.
That's pretty cool.
That's kind of a one-upsman that they like to do to straighten some people out in certain I'm so very special disciplines. I think the art world can tend to be that way.
Somebody actually did that in the 60s or 70s, I think. His wife basically, I was watching Mysteries at the Museum, I think, but his wife basically had gotten dissed as an artist, so he just made a really crappy painting, called it some postmodernist thing. He did it as a joke, and the thing got rave reviews. And so he painted like 2 or 3 others, and people were raving about it. And finally he goes, you know, I've never picked up a paintbrush till I painted that first one.
He was a natural.
Well, that's what they were saying. The critics wouldn't back down, and he's going, no, it's crap. It looks horrible. And they were like, no, you have natural, postmodernistic. He's like, no, I was being a smartass, and you guys are too damn dumb to realize that.
Wow. Isn't that interesting where that line is? Where they saw art, and he purposely perpetrated hoax, and they saw art?
He made a painting as bad as he could, and they just wouldn't. Yeah, I thought it was funny, but I mean, it's like I think every discipline has people who will do something like that. Paul Carr pointed out, you know, Steve Allen, musician, and George Robb actually has done something similar to this too. But Steve Allen would basically just get on his piano and smash something out, nonsensical notes, and pass it off as music.
See, the problem really with the arts is that it's hard to find objective criteria to say that something is good or bad or whatever.
Yeah, and it's perceptual.
If everything is subjective, then maybe people who looked at those paintings thought they were interesting. Maybe, you know, maybe that's the art.
It's kind of like porn, you know, you can't describe it, but you know it when you see it.
And maybe people who read Ern Malley's poems enjoyed those poems, and if so, can you say that they weren't poetry? You know? So,
well, you know, what was the paper that you mentioned earlier, the Sokol?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just because it was poppycock doesn't mean it wasn't well crafted.
But
he actually admits in his own write-up of it that he just was putting in nonsensical words.
Yeah, he just threw crap out there and crafted it around.
He said, "What was it? Einsteinianism is not a center; it's a middle of a center of a way." I think is one of the lines from it.
But he wasn't submitting that to a scientific journal, was it? It was like a sociology journal or something like that.
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, it wasn't a science. It was a
philosophy,
social science or something.
Social text. It was an academic journal.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
he
was trying to bait them. He was trying to bait them into being who they were so big that they got outed, in a way. That they were just anything that was real leftist, postmodern, they would swallow hook, line, and sinker. And he kind of outed their soft underbelly, which I think, in a way, did science a service.
Yeah, sure. That's always when you can show people their own ass, it's not a bad quality. and we were talking about critical thinking, and I don't know at what point I thought about this, but all the claims for cold fusion.
Yes.
You know, it seems like every few years somebody has discovered cold fusion. And
it normally seems to be the same couple of guys too.
Well, sometimes, yeah, I've seen there's some group from Scotland, as I recall, and they don't want to show their work and all the.
What do they call it? Fusion in a jar or something like that.
Genie in a jar.
I'm sorry, Paul Carr just pointed out Project Alpha, and one of the members of that was Banachek, who is a skeptic. Well, I know Banachek. He's a skeptic. He's a magician, and he.
That's the one you were talking about. Who was talking about just a minute ago? Like the amazing Randy.
I was talking about Randy and him. Yeah, that was it. Project Alpha was the two psychics that were really just jacking with researchers until James Randi finally went, okay, guys, let's give it up now. Let's just go ahead and tell them the truth and let them off the hook.
You see, I think the problem with a lot of scientists is that they don't expect someone to have nefarious intentions, providing evidence to them. You know, they perhaps naively expect people to be honest with them, and they don't really expect to pick out liars. And Randy also was the one who exposed Uri Geller, the spoonbender, if you remember him from way back.
Yep.
And
And Popoff and a lot of the others like that.
Yeah. Whereas actual scientists were fooled by this guy because they weren't expecting someone to be dishonest with them, whereas Randy was.
Well, yeah. What's that prison experiment?
Oh,
Berkeley.
yeah, Berkeley, where they basically the kids were the guards.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was Berkeley.
Yeah, because there was one of the guards. It was in John Ronson's book, one of his books, and he was talking about one of the guards had just saw Cool Hand Luke, and thought that this guy wanted him to be like one of the guards in that movie.
Oh, brother.
And that, and
Excuse me.
Ronson had interviewed the scientist. Like, God, no, what if I got the book somewhere here? But when he was interviewing it, it's like, why would he want to do that? You know, he didn't think that it was like, he couldn't think that someone would purposely
Be cruel.
And go that level. But it also, see, like the experiment was proving out his hypothesis that when you put people in certain situations, they're going to react and to go to these extremes, and he wouldn't accept that this was all, this was not real, and even to this day, I think he even or argues against it. I mean, but even then, there might be some questions about this guy. He may have been talking out his ass a little bit about playing that part. So who knows what's really going on there? But I remember that story, because it was really cool. It was really good. Ronson does these really good books.
Was that the experiment where college kids were erroneously led to believe that they could dial up a pain degree and shock other people? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, this was the Berkeley prison experiment.
Oh, okay.
Like, wasn't it half the kids were prisoners, half of them were guards, and then they switched them over?
Oh, okay.
Is that the one you're talking about, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Berkeley prison experiment, and basically it went bad fast.
Human behavior, it's a twitchy subject.
Yeah.
I mean, when you just realize what a lot of the good Germans did during Hitler's time, the quote-unquote good Germans fell for that and did heinous things, and when the war was over, they kind of like collectively shook their head and said, my God, what did we just perpetrate? And I think human beings in general sometimes just lose themselves in some strange little, I don't know, weird path we can go down.
Yeah. But definitely what I've from this thing, it's like getting back to the scientists that were running that experiment he was trying to prove his basic hypothesis and using whatever the Piltdown Man, I mean, kind of fits that. The skull fit in with the preconceived notions of the time. Many of these, when you look at cold fusion, there's, I guess, maybe can work, but a lot of this, they get like, what am I trying to get at here? That there's like these, the scientists say, even the Alpha Project, these psychologists or parapsychologists believe that there is a mental whatever they were experimenting on, and they were trying to find people to fit in their preconceived, and that's how and that perpetuates a lot of this. That's where really the bad science comes from, because the scientists that are trying to prove there are scientists that are working on Bigfoot, and they're trying to prove Bigfoot exists, and they're coming up short, but they're holding on to the premise that Bigfoot's real. You'll see Michael Cremo. I just finished reading that book. I've read it a few times, and when you read the book, you'll see that he's basically cherry picking a lot of old archaeological digs. He's looking back at the 1700s, 1800s, and even up to the 1920s. And the scientists didn't have the tools or the ability to do the proper measurements and the proper dating. So a lot of the stuff in his book, it talks about humans existing 100 million years or 200 million years, even 600 million years. He goes back to these because at the time they find the fossils in 600 million year deposits. Oh, then these must go back to 600 million years. It's not till recently when we get carbon dating, all the dating abilities, a much better picture of what human evolution is. Much of that stuff has been pretty much debunked, and if there is that, because like he even refers to a lot of times to evidence that doesn't even exist anymore. It popped up and then disappeared. Of course, he's trying to his basic premise is that humans have existed 100 or 10 million years in the current form that we are now, and that it's all mostly on Vendic Buddhist creationism. So he created a book to try to support the idea that this particular creationism is correct, and the downside is, or one of the offshoots of all this has been that you have people who want to believe this stuff. You got, Piltdown Man has been used by the creationists as how science, as the failure of science. It's a failure of science, and if this is a failure, creationism must be real. That there's, it's just there's just this, it's a shame that that they can't see, because science progresses. Okay, Piltdown Man has been proven to be a hoax.
Yep.
Set it aside. Let's move forward. There's always, scientists make mistakes. Set it aside. That's not, redo your experiment.
Surely that's
Key
the
point is
strength of science.
Yeah.
The strength of science is that it keeps going and keeps testing, keeps doubting, and so you eventually do expose things like Piltdown Man.
Yeah.
It's a pity it took so long, but still.
Right.
That's exactly what I was going to say, David, is that basically science is self-correcting.
Hello?
Hello?
You faded out.
Oh, am I still faded out, or am I actually back now?
Science
you're
is
back.
self-correcting, and then...
Okay, well, you guys already got me twice, so I'm not really sure if I trust you.
Now, the other Mike didn't wade in with his hoax yet.
Who, me?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, Piltdown Man.
Oh, you
Mongo's-
did Piltdown Man.
Mongo's started
Okay.
off new, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I think just about everybody's had their go at it. I've got a long list of favorite hoaxes. So I'll just jump in real quick. My personal favorite isn't so much a hoax as a hoaxer, but P.T. Barnum.
Oh, yeah.
Who,
He was an expert.
yeah, well, the thing is, he had General Tom Thumb, who was a cousin of his, who was a little person. He had the Fiji mermaid, which was a novelty you could buy from Japanese fishermen. If I remember right, he had a unicorn where he basically just stuck a horn on a horse's head. Uh, Basically, he gave everybody what they wanted. On the other hand, he also taught people a lesson in that, hey, here's what you want, but don't trust that it's actually what you're looking for. He's basically almost like a monkey paw witch. So, I mean, it's just anybody who can do what he did for so long, and even though everybody knew what he was doing was fake.
Yeah, he was a perfect.
But they still came to see it.
He was a perfect connoisseur of human nature, and you know, the old "there's a sucker born every minute" kind of thing. Boy, he knew that. People want to believe certain things.
That's actually a miscreditation. Somebody else actually said that, and it was credited to Barnum.
Oh.
Yeah.
And who said that?
I heard it the other day. It was a contemporary of his.
Ah, okay.
So he basically said it, and then somebody just credited it to Barnum. So, but yeah, go ahead.
We haven't moved too far off the needle since P.T. Barnum was bringing them in the big tent, it would seem.
No, I mean, you still have freak shows. You still have the
Jerry Springer.
Well, our freak show now is
Jerry
called
Springer.
YouTube. Our freak show now is YouTube.
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was the Republican debates.
Nice. Thank you, Dave.
No.
Thank you. I'll be here all night.
We
I
can't
think
go there.
I am temporarily banned from bringing up Trump and the orangutan on his head for a while. But now, in terms of yeah, who else is hoping that the Republican race is actually just a long-running April Fool's joke? Raise your hand now.
Look, I have the luxury, because I live in Australia, that it's a spectator sport for me. I'm enjoying it immensely.
It's a spectator sport here too. We just aren't enjoying it terribly.
In Jamaica, I just got back from Jamaica, and they talk about Donald Trump all the time, and it's really refreshing because they don't talk about it in the intensity and the whole. None of the hubris that is part of the campaign here in Jamaica. They just like look at this funny man, and they really laugh at these stories that are happening. And it really lightened the mood for me. I said, "Oh, that's great," because in the U.S. everybody's so intense. And then I get back here, and I realized, wow, the news is just repeating over and over how angry everybody is, and subsequently everybody is being angry or choosing anger as a response to whatever, instead of looking at the thing as a joke, which I think, judging from what who just said that was Australia.
Right.
Yeah, and
yeah, the media here is part of the problem.
It's us. I mean, we're the one because when we share stuff.
It's not us. We're being led around by the nose.
Right.
By the media. They're just shoving this down. We want to watch some little Hollywood elitist do something, and they rip open our nose and grab us and just shove a bunch of crap, and we listen to it. God, if we all turned our televisions off, we'd be better.
What I think is really funny is the fact that they're not really paying attention to the equal airtime.
Oh God, no! There are some candidates who could not get arrested. Trump took all the air out, and the media allowed that, and even helped him do that. The media has been really. They've been the problem here.
You do know we're technically part of the media now, right?
I was about to say. I mean, this is all. It's us. The media is YouTube and Facebook. We're the ones sharing all this stuff.
Well, that's true. That's true.
It
yeah.
is.
Well,
and I was buying into it when I saw some of the outrageous things he was doing, and I got caught up in it. I said, "Oh, this person is my enemy. This person is they're not. I don't care."
You're right, yeah.
I get handle stuff here in my neighborhood in Key West when kids need help or when there's a situation where someone is being unfairly treated. Then I can participate and I can have a real change. But at this stage for this show that's going on, the best thing I can do is not share and not buy into it and propose good
Leave the
ideas.
theater. That's what your best thing do.
I'm
Leave the
I'm just going to
theater.
say
.com.
Trump
I'm,
is proof that you should never leave the Oompa Loompas in charge of the factory.
I'm sorry.
Anti-Oompa
I derailed the conversation. I'm sorry, but at least I suppose it's relevant to the extent that it's very easy for people to fool themselves or to be fooled. We actually kind of enjoy being fooled by the P.T. Barnums of the world, and so perhaps it's relevant in that sense. But
Yeah,
let's not get into politics.
That's
Or
what I
Steve
find
Ballmer
most
doing
fascinating. I think what's most fascinating about hoaxes and everything is human behavior. To me, that is the whole thing, that humans are built that way. Now, if you were to take an artificial intelligence who is not human, it would not be sidetracked by all that crap. It would just evaluate things on what it is confronted by. It would evaluate incoming information without all of the other, nuances and colorings and all that other claptrap. But as humans, we just really, the most of us are not able to carefully balance and weigh and move out of the pile stuff that's just crap.
Well, even the most logical of us we're still driven basically by emotions. Our emotions at times will drive our logic.
Well, there was that Microsoft thing about, was it that artificial intelligence thing?
Talks, yes.
Yeah. And
became a nymphomaniac Trump lover.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that one out.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, it's an amazing story. We've created a monster. Yeah, like there's a one of the bots out there that by being interacted with, it developed a personality, and the personality it took on was, as you said,
I really want to just cite one of her tweets, but we don't bleep anything.
Trump supporter. That's what you said.
Well, we don't bleep anything on here, so plus it's part of the drinking game every time we take it above PG-13.
Wouldn't it be great if we bleep the Trump word every time we said it?
So what happened was...
She drew a direct link between Trump and Hitler. That's what I like. Yeah. She broke Godwin's law without actually invoking it.
Oh my God, we're talking about this artificial intelligence like it was really something. This thing just glommed onto everybody's input and
the fact that she got to the point where she went, I mean, pardon my language, but there's actually a line where she goes, "Fuck me in the ass, daddy."
Okay, you're not pardoned.
Overshare. What just happened? Testing. Prank call.
Well, she went from saying, "Hi, it's nice to meet you, humans," to that, and then to Hitler had the right idea.
That's because of the people that she had input from.
Yeah.
This was this open device that was just a little sponge, and all the people that interacted with this device is what bent this thing so badly wrong.
Well, this is why we can't have nice things.
Or was she born that way? It's nature, classic example of nature versus nurture.
We'll never know.
Technology itself is inherently bad.
I mean, there's a very old computer adage, which is garbage in, garbage out. So you can have the most logical device in the world, but if you feed it garbage, that's what you're going to get out.
There you go.
Yeah. So somebody on Reddit announced that this thing was coming out, and they just turned people loose on it too.
Well, we obviously need to protect young AI minds.
Right?
Yeah. Our AI children.
We're clearly not ready for
that ain't right.
Someone think of the AI children. Yeah.
You know what? The artificial intelligence are going to look back at this moment where we're making these jokes and just like, wow, look at those bigots.
No, the Terminators are probably going to end up hunting me down because I'm making fun of them.
Yeah, I don't know where that's going to go.
I personally am not an AIist.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to be. It's going to happen anyway, Mike.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not anti-AI.
An AIist is anti-AI?
An AIist, like a racist or a speciesist
I see.
Oh, well, that could also mean a proponent for AI.
Or for artificial insemination, too.
So a person who's yeah, it's just contextual.
Well, I mean, I'm a
Artificial
farm boy.
insemination.
For me, AI
I'm
means...
not against that either.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a farm boy who uses a lot of text. So for me, AI means two completely different things at the same time. You can AI and AI. I mean...
our man here has a very like one-track mind. I don't know if anyone else is.
I know that is very illuminating, James. So you might consider. Methinks thou speaketh too much. Thou protesteth.
I'm not protesting anything as long as I get paid. But anyway.
There's a great shirt in Key West that says, "I'm not gay," and underneath it says, "But $20 is $20."
I like that. Yeah, but you know what happened if I wore that in Oklahoma? I'd have it about $60. Okay.
Wow. We are going to get in trouble. You're no longer to play with allowed to play with a podcast.
I was gonna say, imagine Beth is gonna smack me in the back of the head here in a few minutes because I'm not wearing headphones. Okay. Well, David is going to have to be going soon, and we've been going for about an hour and a half now, guys.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, and
none too soon, I would say.
Yeah.
Judging from the turn of conversation, none too soon, James.
Here.
Oh, trust me, I could take it much further south than this.
That's why we're calling it quits now. Good night.
Hey, I was volunteering to end it. All right, yeah, we're going to do the wrap-up. So we're going to do, as Paul's been doing lately, we're going to go ahead and do the recommendations. And I'm going to start with David first. Last words and recommendation.
Yeah, I've been quoting tonight from a wonderful book which I've had for decades, which is Martin Gardner's book, Fads and Fallacies in the Name of Science. And yes, it's written in the 50s, but so much of it is still viable today or applicable today. It's from Dover Books, and it's got some really, really great chapters about flat earthers and hollow earthers and Dianetics, which was the precursor of Scientology before it came to religion. A whole lot of really interesting stuff. It's well worth reading if you can find it. So it's available from Dover Books. That's it.
Okay.
All right, and Marcia?
My recommendation would be this: practice discernment. Period.
I like it.
Okay. All right, and Mike Bowler. We actually have two mics on the same show, so it gets a little confusing.
I don't have a recommendation, but I have read the Martin Gardner book. I got it here on my shelf. It's an excellent book. Definitely something to add to your collection.
Okay. And he actually lived not too far from where I live right now, too. Or if I'm not too far from where he actually passed away. So, Mike Mongo?
Oh, before we started the podcast tonight, we talked about some books and things, and if a person has not read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's really worth making a point of doing that. Just buy it, spin it up on your Kindle. Just having it in your mental vocabulary, having consumed it at some point, will make a difference in your life, and specifically because it just is generous with great dollops of humor and self-effacing humor, laughing at ourselves and our own beliefs and our own mythologies and the things that we all get caught up on, and that's a terrific thing to it's like looking at our butt in the mirror. That's what it is.
Well, it has become a classic, really, right?
Yeah, it is. And people talk about referencing, they say they saw the movie, but read the book. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah, it's kind of like anytime somebody asks me a question, they go, "Can I ask you a question?" And first thing in my mouth is 42. So, Okay, my recommendation. My recommendation tonight is, and I actually got the idea from last time, and it kind of relates to tonight's topic. I'm going to recommend that everybody go over and check out Mike Bowler's podcast, Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy. So it's pretty good, and it kind of relates to hoaxes, more or less, because a lot of times conspiracies are either, if they're real, sometimes they're a hoax, or people think that they're being hoaxed by their, nothing's going on, but people think they're being tricked. It gets kind of deep and meta at times. But Mike does a really good job on his podcast. He's very thorough, very eloquent, and very well spoken on the show. And it covers a lot of very interesting topics.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
It was a lot of fun, everybody.
I hope everybody had fun. Don't mind my language towards the end. I was following drinking rule games, and I actually ran out of beer at some point.
Oh, okay, that explains it, because this entire podcast was PG-13 until the F-bomb. There it is.
Yeah, that says so much.
That is nowhere near the first one on this show. That's actually the first one I've dropped.
And you were quoting.
Yes, I was actually quoting somebody, so I'm protected by.
Yeah, you're quoting it. Yeah, that's like Donald Trump when he said the P word.
All right, I'm
Let's
going now,
look at it.
gentlemen. It's been awfully fun, but I must go.
Over now.
All right,
Au revoir,
thank
au revoir.
everybody. It's been
Keep up
fun.
the good work.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.